So, speaking of disregard for Black life, let's move on to our next story. Stephanie Demetrius to piss me off. I should tell my auntie to run that fade with Stephanie Demetrius. I got an auntie who like to fight. Should ask my auntie to run that fade with Stephanie Demetrius because that just pissed me off. But anyway, talking about disregard for Black life. We have a story of a white husband who gets into a sticky situation with his Black wife, and now his life and her life will never be the same.
Of the jury, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you'll hand that verdict to my bailiff. And before I read the verdict, is this verdict unanimous for all 12 jurors? All right. I'll ask the defendant and his counsel to please rise. I want to caution everyone again, there will be no outburst. It's inappropriate for any parties, counsel, anyone else in the courtroom to react in any way to the verdict. So I'm looking back on page 11. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree manslaughter under instruction number 6, signed by the foreperson. Again, let me ask you, foreperson, did I read that correctly, and is that all 12 jurors agree with that verdict? All right. You may please be seated. Counsel, if anyone would like to review the verdict form and or poll the jury from either counsel?
No, sir. No, Your Honor.
Anyone? All right, you all would approach.
I cannot wait to have this conversation because still with us, trial attorney Wendy Patrick. Wendy, before we get to you, let me just weigh in with you on our emotional reaction to this verdict and your thoughts, Michael.
Well, you look at it this way, it was a huge victory for the defense. This is what they wanted. But I am struggling with the facts of this case and jibing that with this jury's verdict. I mean, they're sitting.
So let me weigh in a bit. So this is the story of Jordan Henning, right? What was his wife's name? I just had his wife's name. I think Jordan and Ashley Henning, I believe, is the name of the couple. White husband, Black wife. And the wife ends up shot to death. Jordan Henning is the husband and Ashley Henning is the wife. And Jordan has just received the verdict of manslaughter for executing his Black wife. Now, we are going to see the surveillance footage that led to Jordan taking out Ashley. I say it's bull. And like the man that said in the video, that's a victory for Jordan Henning's defense team that he got the manslaughter charge rather than the murder charge of the first degree or second degree. And it should have been first degree. He should have got the first degree murder charge. He ended up with the manslaughter charge, which is, lighter sentence. But he's still crying. But he ended up taking out his wife. So that's where we are. But we are going to see the surveillance footage. And I will say it's triggering. White husband executes Black wife. So let's go.
They're in the courtroom. You have to respect that, and I certainly do. But the way this went down, I didn't feel like they had proven that there was this extreme emotional disturbance. He seemed very calm and making.
And so what they're talking about right here is Jordan Henning basically pleaded that his wife was abusive to him and disturbed him emotionally, and he ended up executing her because of the continuous emotional disturbance. That's what he hung his hat on. But when you look at that video, I doubt that was the issue, as he's claiming his wife was consistently abusive.
decisions very clearly. I think other witnesses testified to that as well. There didn't seem to be this extreme emotional disturbance. Judge didn't buy it, but the jury did.
And that's what I want to ask Wendy about as well. I don't disagree with you, Michael. And Wendy, the difference between murder, which was the premeditated murder, versus what he's convicted of, the manslaughter, showing that really they bought his story on the stand, that he had been physically and emotionally abused by his wife. He just snapped. He did this. What are your thoughts, Wendy Patrick?
My thoughts are they either bought that or they didn't think that the case had been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, that that couldn't have been the way it went down. And I say that having faced many of these types of cases where you have what some jurors believe is a very sympathetic set of facts, whether or not they know exactly if it's 100% true. Remember, one of the things that complicates mental defenses, and I'll speak broadly about that, is they're looking at this defendant in the courtroom. He's not evidence, but they have to see him day after day, and he becomes humanized to some extent, particularly when there's any emotion from that counsel table. They know that.
Right. So basically what she's getting at is the emotional disturbance plea wasn't brought by anybody in the court but the jury. And she believes that because the jury was able to see him over and over and over, they start to humanize him and maybe believe his story of emotional disturbance, while everybody else wasn't buying it.
They're not allowed to consider that, Ashley and Michael, and they're told by the judge they're not allowed to consider that. But as human beings, they do. And not necessarily to say we believe everything he said, we believe everything that's been presented on his behalf regarding the emotional demeanor and the provocation, but they use it back in the deliberation room often to say, we just can't say beyond a reasonable doubt that couldn't be an alternate reasonable explanation of the evidence.
Yeah, he took the stand. I guess they bought his testimony. You and I didn't necessarily buy it. I didn't think he covered himself in glory, but obviously they must have bought it. Stand by, Wendy, because I understand that the judge is actually addressing the court. Let's go back in.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we would go right to the sentencing phase of the trial, okay? I've had that discussion with the attorneys concerning witnesses that they would put on. Now, what I mean about that is we have what's called truth in sentencing. Part of that truth in sentencing is understanding, first from the Commonwealth, it's a mini trial. Commonwealth can do an opening, they don't have to. Defense can do an opening, they don't have to. They will hear some evidence just like we did last time for the sentencing portion of the case. Truth in sentencing means most likely from the Commonwealth you will hear from a probation and parole officer that will tell you the time that you can give for this charge, how much percentage of that before a person's up for parole, things of that nature. And then also you can hear impact information, you can hear mitigating testimony from the defendant. There is going to be some testimony to that. Being as it is late in the day, here's what I would ask you to do. It's going to be my call, all right? I want to make sure you know it'll be my call in discussing it with the attorneys. Here's what I would ask you to do, and the attorneys are in agreement with that, because there is an ability to not be sequestered after the verdict is in, but again, that's my call. Here's what I would ask of you. Why don't I return you back? You all discussed amongst yourselves, okay? Someone might have something this evening, 4 things to not be able to stay longer, but then some people may have something tomorrow morning, because what we would do if we didn't stay and get it all done today, we'd come back tomorrow for the sentencing portion of the case. So I'm going to give you 5 or 10 minutes to go back, discuss, and I would ask that the foreperson let me know when they're ready. Probably just send a note out. Don't just send a note out what the jury would request. I'll bring it in front of the attorneys and we'll have discussion on it, okay? Let's do that. Give you about 5 or 10 minutes. When the foreperson's ready, just give that note to the bail. Thank you. Please rise.
Okay, so you heard the judge there essentially telling this court down in Kentucky they usually would go right into the sentencing phase. But the jury had the option of whether they wanted to stick around and do it or some other options as well, because what he was going to do, he was going to sequester this jury until they came up with a verdict. So the question is, will they be sequestered if they start tomorrow? Do they want to continue on with it today? So they'll come back with their decision in just a bit. But let's bring back in our guest still with us, trial attorney Wendy Patrick.
So we side-eyeing the jury hard. The jury get hard side-eyed for their ruling, for the verdict. When you see the video, I'm just saying, when you see the video gonna come up. We watching it. And when it happens, you're going to see the jury getting really side-eyed, and it seemed like they don't really know.
And Wendy, what's interesting about this, I thought one of the biggest hurdles.
Try to move a little. Okay, here we go. So we about to move into the footage, into the home. Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning.
Center of this case, the shooting of this victim, Ashley Henning.
Look in this area right here. So they're arguing. He pulls out the gun, uses the gun, unloads on her. She's on the ground moaning. He goes, reloads, uses it some more, and then spits on her and walks away. Yeah. Manslaughter? Nah, that's not manslaughter. That's a violent rage. That's a violent rage he went into and took out his wife. That's a first degree charge. That should have been first degree. He got off lighter by getting the manslaughter, but that should have been first degree. And I don't know their life, but from what we see, that don't look like maybe he was suffering from some emotional abuse from her, because at any time he could have, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure in my opinion, I don't think he was just around taking it from her. Now, of course, we need more details into their relationship, but this is the outcome right now. First thing that I think about is, there are a lot of black women who have disdain for black men. And a lot of black women have disdain for black men. They like to go to the other sides, or they want to go to the other sides. They fantasize about going to the other sides. But all in all, a lot of black women, well, I'm not going to say a lot of black women. There are some black women who have a disdain for black men, and they believe white men specifically are better than black men. And so they denigrate black men while uplifting the white man. And the white man can do no good. I mean, the white man could do no wrong while the black man could do no good. The white man is the angel while the black man is the devil. The white man is successful while the black man is a bum. Now, this white man doesn't represent all white men, but it does represent deviant behavior. And so the same deviant behavior that those black women believe white men don't have, it's on display right there. Remember, they are the authors of this deviant behavior in this land. To think that the descendants of the people who stole this land and the descendants of the people who uphold systems of white supremacy aren't violent, aren't deviant, aren't tyrannical, you're crazy. And humans gon' human. No matter what, humans gon' human. But I think it's insane, diabolical. It's intentive for those black women who have disdain for black men and the way they denigrate black men. They talk about black men as if we are the scum of the earth, and white men can do no wrong. White men are completely gods, infallible. White men do this, and 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 black men don't do this, and black men don't do this, and black men don't do this, and black men ain't shit, right? And yeah, all right, cool. You might have had some black men who were disappointed in your life. Who hasn't? But that don't mean all black men fit that stereotype. Just like this white guy showed that, Jordan Henning showed that all white men don't fit that stereotype. All white men ain't good folk. But this is not aimed at white men, but it's aimed at the idea that at those black women who have disdain for black men, it is aimed at them to show them that, well, not even to show them, but it's a reminder to all of us that just because you look down on black men don't mean men of other races aren't diabolical, aren't deviants, aren't killers. They will harm you too. So yeah, you might have a negative perception of black men, but you have a negative perception of black men because of the quality of black men that you've been around. And subsequently, this is a low quality white man. And low quality white men exist, low quality Asian men, low quality Hispanic men, low quality men exist across the spectrum of humanity. And so if you're black and you can only see the wrong in black men, you're part of the problem. Now, I'm not saying that this white man represents all white men, but this white man does represent deviant behavior.